Over the last few years, Final Fantasy fans have been debating on a few things. There have been many discussions and divisiveness when it comes to things such as turn-based combat versus action-based combat, third-person camera angles versus fixed camera angles, Jessie Raspberry or Queen of Quen? No, but more recently, now with Final Fantasy IX Remake being in the works, after Final Fantasy VII Remake being a thing, we find ourselves wondering, will it have hyper-realistic graphics, cartoonish cel shading, or beautifully rendered 3D models, which retain a great cartoon design along the lines of Pixar-ish. Sorry, I'm an idiot and that's the best way I could describe it. If you know the proper name for that art style, please let me know in the comments. And also, while you're here, consider subscribing so you can stay up to date on all Final Fantasy news, especially with Final Fantasy IX Remake and Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, which are on the way soon. Let's raise this number up to 50% because only 26% of you guys are currently subscribed. Let's spirit bomb this energy and send it through the roof. Now with all that being said, let's get into this video. Recently on Twitter, I saw a tilt shift video from the YouTube channel called Florida. Link is in the description. They post unique videos of fixed camera angles within video games, and it sort of brings me nostalgia, thinking about back in the day how we used to play RPGs, specifically with their Final Fantasy VII Remake tilt shift video. And watching this with the chat, I could not help but wonder, man, what if Final Fantasy IX Remake looks like this? Isometric angles are not super popular nowadays, but with next-gen capabilities, I imagine there are bars that can be pushed further beyond when executing this style. The architecture and map design of Final Fantasy IX with this camera angle would be something absolutely mind-blowing to witness. I'm just thinking about roaming around Alexandria in this style. That not only calls back to veteran fans who have played the original, but also very well could appeal to newcomers into this game's world. Now, I'm all for a third-person look as well for Final Fantasy IX Remake, don't get me wrong, but there is something about this that feels so damn right. Might be the RPG boomer in me, but I want to know what you guys think. Would you prefer Final Fantasy IX Remake to look like this throwback tilt shift style, or are we on the third-person camera hype train like almost every other game nowadays? Up next, I want to give a special shout out to our friends over at the Final Fantasy IX Memoria project. This team has been hard at work bringing fans heavy doses of nostalgia and just being absolute big fanatics of the game themselves. This project is a non-playable tribute to Final Fantasy IX, and just an overall proof of concept of how Final Fantasy IX could look nowadays. Their work is to not infringe on Square Enix's copyright, but just celebrate the characters, the world, and the story. Using Unreal Engine 5, the team put together just what is possible for Final Fantasy IX Remake to look like with technology in our current generation, which looks a bit something like in between Kingdom Hearts 3, Dragon Quest XI, and Pixar Overwatch-ish. Man, it's just fire. It's freaking fire. Their trailer showcases what Alexandria with modern technology would look like in reference to when Vivi arrives in the beginning of the game. Recently, they released a nighttime version of the same trailer not too long ago. On their website, which is linked below, you can follow their updates on the project and cycle through their images for the character models in this tribute, which I highly recommend you all check out because it's really something amazing. This is ultimately what I hope Final Fantasy IX Remake sort of looks like. This art style captures the original's design, and I think it would instantly be a hit. We don't need hyper-realism in the remake for Final Fantasy IX. The game's got freaking elephants and hippo humanoids walking around, which would be a nightmare in realistic style. But honestly, with how Memoria Project looks, I will take this style in either isometric fixed camera angle or third person. It just looks way too damn good, man. Now when it comes to the combat for RPGs, there is a divide among many. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, I truly think we got action-based combat because of how popular the fighting style in Advent Children was, and many people wanted to control the characters in that way. Even the developers have said it themselves. While there are lots of fans of Final Fantasy VII Original and its turn-based combat, myself included, there are many new fans who have never played turn-based before, and some of them don't find that playstyle interesting, which is tragic. Majority of them became fans from Advent Children or even Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Now for Final Fantasy VII Remake, I say it was a smart decision taking it that route, because of the increased exposure it gave the game, bringing all kinds of new fans into it by having a more engaging style of play. So many of those new fans loved the remake so much they decided to play the original game afterwards, because they loved the characters and story so much, and it was something that they wanted to follow up and could not wait for the next 5 parts of Remake. I'm joking. It'll be 3 or 4, maybe. And lots of them actually enjoyed the turn-based combat in the end, when previously they didn't think that they would. Now, this is not to say turn-based would not work this day for new games. I mean, there are tons of successful turn-based games still coming out, but I truly think Final Fantasy IX Remake would be a much better experience if it remained a turn-based combat title, and also could be a power move by Square Enix, showing the world that they can still do turn-based games, and also add in some new mechanics to it, showing that they have not fully lost their touch with it. Now, this is hoping for a lot. When you look at their last few Final Fantasy games, they seemingly abandoned their turn-based systems. But for Final Fantasy IX Remake, I really hope it's something that we can see brought back, revamped, and expanded on with borrowing mechanics from other successful RPGs, or even creating entirely new concepts we have yet to see before. I mean, you said it yourself, Square. You guys need to focus on the Japanese media and gameplay elements because it's what you guys do best. And mimicking Western titles is not a focus you should be investing in. Cries in NFTs. And that wraps it up for this video, guys. What do you think Final Fantasy IX Remake will look like, play like, and do you have any suggestions for how they can spice up turn-based combat? I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new. More Final Fantasy videos are coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.